is now. Right, so I know all these images are pencil, but obviously we're going to need to do the pencil outlines of the face first before we do anything. And I think it's really important to get that under drawing correct. Now, obviously we're not going to add, you know, as much shading and detail as in these, because we're going to be adding all the shading through the paint. So it's just getting the outlines and the proportions correct. So there's a few key things that you can do that are really easy hacks that will help you get that foundation right. So when you draw the face, you need to look at the sort of person you were doing, but we can just do a generic face for the purpose of this exercise today. But usually it's sort of like an ovally shape. And then, do you know where the eyes would be?
Right across the middle.
Yes, well done. So roughly about halfway down, you can just draw a line. And then you also draw a line again halfway down in the middle, okay? So that helps you get your centre point as well. And then halfway between the bottom and the halfway line, so 3/4 of the way down, that's where what will be?
End of the nose or the mouth?
Nose, yeah. And then halfway between the chin and the nose will be the mouth, roughly. Now, these are generic measurements, but it's a good starting point for you to kind of know where to kind of place things roughly. Obviously, everybody's individual and slightly different. Then it's a case of where do we put the eyes? How big do we draw them? Because if you do the eyes, you know, too big, then you're going to be able to tell straight away. But if you do them too small, you're going to be able to tell. So it's trying to get everything symmetrical and lined up. So an easy thing to do is to take the width of the face. So let's say for easy maths. Hi. No worries. Let's say that's 15 centimetres. We divide it by 5, so it'd be 3 centimetres. Because actually, in the whole width of your face, you can fit 5 eyes.
Oh,
did you know that?
Didn't realise.
Did you not know that? Yeah. So.
Oh, I think it include the hair you covered because it is skull. If you shaved everything, probably.
So there's an eye either side of your eyes, and there's an eye in the middle length. So lots of artists kind of draw 5 eyes along, and then they rub out, obviously, the ones that aren't actually there. Does that make sense? So then you know you've got your eyes in the right position, and you know you've got them the right size. So yeah, the face is 5 eye widths apart. So it's a really handy kind of measurement to have. Then
all these cheaty ways of doing it.
I know. And then once you've got your eyes in position, you can then draw a line down from them, because where the eyes start is usually where the nose ends.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at everybody's face.
I know, yeah.
It's bigger than in view wise.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah.
Slightly sometimes, but it depends on the person. Some people have more narrow noses, and everyone's very individual.
Your eyes so big. Put 5 in there. That's such a big eye.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a general measurement.
Okay,
it's not always true, you know. It don't have to stick to the rule. Like they say, learn the rules like a pro, break them like an artist. So, you know, if you know what the fundamental measurements are, you can break those measurements out a little bit sometimes, depending on the subject that you're drawing. But it's just really helpful to know. And then obviously, then you've got the mouth there. Now, in terms of actually getting those features of the face accurate, I thought it'd be really good, rather than just throw you in and say, let's paint a face, thought it'd be good for us to actually individually draw an eye, a nose, a mouth, and then start to try and paint those, rather than to tackle the whole face. Because again, like there's some simple measurements and simple approaches to the face, there's also the same for the eyes and the nose and the mouth. So for example, the eyes, now Leonardo da Vinci, as you'll have known, was very famous for looking at the anatomy. So he would always draw the entire eyeball, and then he would draw the eyelid over the eyeball, because he was always visualizing what's underneath what he was drawing, and that would really help him to get his measurements accurate. So you've got this almond shaped eye there, so we've got the eyeball behind it. Obviously you can rub that out afterwards, and what lots of people forget to add is this little kind of corner here with the tear duct. And actually sometimes you don't always see the full iris. Sometimes a lot of the time that is slightly cut off by the eyelid. So again, draw the whole circle but cut it off a little bit by the eyelid. And then obviously depending on the light in the room, how big the pupil's going to be. And then from there, you've also got to add your eyelid, and you've got to add your kind of lower eyelid and any sort of creases. Obviously, the more you add, the more you're going to age the person. But also, something that's really, really crucial and very easily can affect how good the eyes look is the eyelashes. So they don't start right in the corner. So many people make that mistake. We wouldn't be able to close our eyes if they did. So we actually really start to visually see them about there. So start them a bit of the way in, about a quarter of the way in, and then they get bigger as they go out, and they curve and they overlap and they all kind of converge, and they follow a set sort of like direction really in going outwards towards the outer edge of the eye.
My son's eyelashes, which are quite long, don't
Yours are
go
long.
upwards, they go downwards. So like when he has his eyes tested, they have a real problem with them because his eyelashes are in the way. Because
Really?
They go downwards, yeah.
That's really unusual. Yeah, that's really unusual. I've not come across that before.
Well, I tried to do his eye. I thought, I'll give him up. Because it just, because his eyelashes come across, it's like his vision, really.
I think Chinese are like that. We don't have curled eyelash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
we
straight.
use mascara. We're straight, but we're short. We're not that long.
Well, if he used mascara, he'd look really good because he's
Yeah, tell him to use mascara. Push it up. Otherwise, it is quite. It's straight. Our eyelashes are straight. Don't curl. And but we are short. We don't really like. We're very long to cover your side. It's very short. So anyway,
Yeah.
carry on. Sorry.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. So that's roughly the eye. I'm not going to go into all shading it and stuff because we're going to do that in acrylic, and I'll show you that later. With the nose, you can do it as a series of circles. So a big circle and two small circles overlapping, and then that gives you your shape then to essentially build off to make your nose shape. And then you can build off from there. So that's really, really easy. That's one approach. You could do a bit more of a sort of straighter approach as well if you wanted to use lines in it. But I think just the simple circles is quite easy to, an easy one to remember as well. And then with the mouth, again, I like to use circles with this one. So I do two smaller circles and then one circle below. You're probably thinking, where is she going with this? And then you add your little line in between. Not giving myself enough space at the edge there.
Gobstoppers in, hasn't it? Bit before your time, gobstoppers, I suppose. I was thinking about this.
And that gives you the shape. Clever, isn't it? Yeah. So it just stops them looking flat. It just gives them contours. So I thought if we just initially have a go at kind of doing the individual features and then putting them onto a face, and then once we've got those shapes and proportions roughly right, and I'll come round and check those, then I'll show you about how to start applying paint to them. So it's just a very much practice. It's like nothing's finished. This is just like a bit of a, testing, doing the features individually before we start to kind of like put it all together.
It's just we're not looking at any pictures.
You don't have to, no. You can just do it like a generic eye, a generic nose, a generic mouth, yeah.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
a question? When you were positioning the nose, you said
Yes.
to line it up.
With,
Is it either side of the middle eye?
yeah, so the edges
that's
of the
your middle
eye come down, yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah. And actually, the other one that I forgot to mention is the end of the nose and the top of the eye, sometimes the eyebrow, depending on how the person you're doing, is usually the ears as well.
Top of the eye and bottom of the nose.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right, Prince
Shall we give
Charles.
it a go? Hey! Love that. Love that.